This is reddogterrain. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're building a ziggurat in the swamp. So the nice people at Huge Miniatures, who you've seen on the channel a couple times and products I've used before, they sent me a box of goodies. They were really kind about it, and I appreciate that they'd be so nice to a small channel like mine, and do this. In exchange, all they ask that I put their name in the title and give an honest review, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use all these products that they sent, and I'm trying to use up as much of them as I can, just to see how well they work and see how they do. But first we have to build something before we put a bunch of texture paste and tufts on it. So let's start building. I don't know where I got these 1 foot by 1 foot squares of pink insulation foam. I know I didn't buy them, and they're thinner than the usual stuff, but this is going to be the base of the whole project. The idea of the project was that here in Louisiana there's a lot of levees to stop the flooding, and when you're near a kind of swampy area like the Atchafalaya and stuff like that, you have these levees and then they quickly slope down to the swamp, and my thought was that similar to that, there was this ziggurat that was built in maybe what was started as a dry area, but because of the flooding that we get all the time, it slowly started to sink into the ground, but you still had this levee, this kind of green part going up the hill. So I cut a crescent of foam and then cut a big hole in the middle of it, glued it all together, and then hot glued it just to seal everything and trying to hide the seam between them. As far as texturing goes with the ground, I knew that I was going to try and use a lot of the flock and use the basing material that I was sent to do the texturing. So I just took some rocks and just beat the heck out of it, just to create a real basic layer to build upon. Of course, we base everything in the secret sauce, which is just black paint and Mod Podge, and then I put a base coat of browns. Real simple, just 2 colors. Didn't really care what it looked like, because I knew most of it would be covered up. While I do that, let me thank the band Aya for the use of their music in all of my videos. This first song is Una vez fue imaginario, and the second song is Lo que hoy es evidente. With the base done, I put it to the side and I started working on the ziggurat. This green foam, my friend Grant came over to work on a project, and he brought this. This is interesting foam. It takes texture fairly well. It has an odd feel to it. It is nice and thick though, and it cuts just as easily as the other stuff, but it's got a weird texture to it. So these are about 5-6 inches wide, stacked 3 high. They're an inch tall each. Put them together, glued them. I also put 2 wooden dowels through them, which would later cause me major headache, which I'll point out later. Drop these on the Proxon and cut a decent sized angle on it. Nothing crazy. I tried to use historical photos and images to try and get a good idea of what a ziggurat really was, and mine's not exactly a ziggurat. Actually, I don't know if there's a technical. I bet you it falls in the technical definition of a ziggurat. I'm gonna have to go look that up. I'll be back. So according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, ziggurat is an ancient Mesopotamian temple tower consisting of lofty pyramidal structure built in successive stages with outside staircases and a shrine at the top. So besides being in the swamp and not Mesopotamia, I'm saying this is really a ziggurat. So looking into it a little bit more, the Great Ziggurat of Ur, which was in Mesopotamia, which is current day Iraq, was 30 meters tall, so it's 100 feet tall, and it was 210 feet in length. So if we do that in 28 millimeter scales, where every 5 feet is 1 inch, this thing would have been 20 inches tall and 3.5 feet wide. So we can either say that this is not the ancient ziggurat of Ur, or it is the ancient ziggurat of Ur, and just the top part is still sticking out. All the rest has fallen into the swamp. So let's get back to the build. I took a couple of strips of the cheap dollar store foam board, cut them by I think a 0.5 millimeter, and then textured them with my homemade texture roller, which is just sand glued to a piece of PVC. I use that thing quite often, especially for stuff like concrete, or where I want just like a little bit of texture, a little bit of rock, but not like, you know, boulders and like stone, just something that has been somewhat taken care of or manufactured or something like that. Works great. Next I started working on the stairs. I cut a few pieces up. The super glue that I bought, I thought it was foam safe super glue. I've used it on a bunch of other foam and it works no problem, does not melt. However, on a cheap dollar store foam board, it became very quickly evident that this is not foam safe super glue. So I cut up a few more pavers and used Eileen's tacky glue. I tried to get away with the super glue because I wanted to get this done a little bit quickly, and I knew that if I used Eileen's, I was gonna have to wait a day or so for it to all get together. Especially if I was gonna run it through the Proxon, that way I could get the unevenness away from it. And then put a few guardrails, I guess, on the side. Then I started on the top. It was way too high to do 3 high, so just went down to 2. That seems about the right scale, the right appropriate scale. While I was working on this, I made sure not to change the angle of the wire on the Proxon because I wanted the top and the bottom to have the same angle. It was a little steep, but it looks fine, I think. Once I got all the side pieces glued on and pinned on, it looked like a party hat for Pinhead the Xenobite. I glued the stairs down and carefully cut off the tops and bottoms. I was real slow with this because I knew that I was worried that it would bust up if I got too fast or too rough with it. But it turned out just fine. I was happy with it. And this is where the stick through the middle holding all together would cause me some problems. Didn't think about it, but as I cut this on an angle to make it look like it was singing, I literally hit the stick, and you can see me struggling, and I had to just go sideways with it and mess the whole thing up. There's the stick that caused all my problems. So I cut it out with some clippers and recut it. It would later cause a little bit of problem where I'd have to fill in some gaps, but nothing crazy. And then once again, going back in with the black Mod Podge, and then we're about to start painting. Amour Danu stood before the crowd. He cleared his throat, adjusted his robe, and addressed the workers. Greetings. Similar to Etem Ni Guru, the great ziggurat of Uru, the house whose foundation creates terror, we will build our own place for the gods. It is our hope that Enki, or Utu, or Nana will reside in the upper chambers. It's possible that Anu himself may, even if only for a moment, visit and bless us all. Amour Dunu paused and wiped the sweat building up on the nape of his neck. With that being said, it will take years to build. We need hundreds of laborers, and that's where you come in. Trees must be cleared, stones must be carried and stacked precisely. Carvers will spend hours honorably decorating it, but it'll all be worth it. He paused. The silence was broken by one lone voice. Yeah, but why build it in the swamp? I started with the texture paste. I've used some texture paste, but it was more gravelly, more rock texture. This was interesting to me. There was definitely a learning curve, more so with just how to use the palette knife. I've never used a palette knife before, and it was learning how to like put it on the back of the palette knife for certain angles and put it on the front for the other ways, and then learning how to smooth that out to get the right blend to it. After I'd done about one side of it, that's when it became a lot easier, and I kind of learned what to do and what not to do. Here you can see there's a big gap, and instead of trying to fill it all with the texture paste, I just squirted in a bunch of hot glue and then covered it all up with the texture paste. I made sure to go up the sides. I wanted to make it look muddy, like this has been there a while. But the real nice part is when it all dries, it's this dirty, grimy, muddy texture, and it looks great. And then I started with the tufts. I always put a little dab of super glue. I don't know if it's needed or not, but that's what I do, just to extra secure it a little bit. Huge Miniatures sent me this entire plate set of tufts, and I sure did use the whole thing. Living out here in Louisiana, we have lots of vegetation, and I was trying to mimic that vibrant life, even though everything's muddy and gross and dirty. For the hill part, I used the 4-in-1 block that I already had. This stuff is very, very green, so I use it sparingly. I also try to blend the new stuff, the bog stuff, with the bright green meadow stuff, just to get a better transition between the two. I wanted the hill to look nice and green, like you see out here in real life, and then just kind of gradually, slowly, not in a distinct line, change from the green grass down into our swampy bog. I love this 4-in-1 flock. You've seen me use it a whole bunch of times, regardless of what Huge Miniatures sends me or says. I'm going to keep on buying this stuff and keep on using it. The texture paste was interesting and fun to play with. I can see myself using it more and more. The tufts are great. I do like these, that they're the debris tufts, so they've got little bits of wood or whatever in it. It makes it less obvious that this is not real. Makes it look a little more realistic. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And if any of you are inspired to purchase any of these products because of what you've seen, when you go to buy them, please let them know, hey, reddogterrain sent me. I saw his stuff on there. That would be supreme. Thanks. As I put on the icy purple alcohol and watered down PVA, I asked you to like and subscribe and comment. I have people saying, hey, I don't know what to comment. This time, tell me, what's your favorite car? I think mine is definitely, for sure, an El Camino. I did just a tiny bit of resin, tinted resin, just to add a little bit more water to it and a little more swamp feel to it. After that, it was all done. I'm going to be quiet and let the music play as we go to the glamour shots. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.